Radio Infinity proudly presents. Welcome to Side 1. Radio Infinity speaks. The one is brought to you by radios. Without them, would there be televisions? I'd like to say hello to everyone. Hope you're safe and healthy. Flashback Gold and Platinum. Just a few words. This past Friday's Radio Infinity presentation was Gold and Platinum, Best of the 80s, Volume 1. And I'd just like to say that was a great album that we listened to. A lot of great songs on there. Hall & Oates and Toto was there, just to name a few. Cyndi Lauper was there as well, Pat Benatar. If you think of the 80s, that album pretty much encompasses all of it. With Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson by himself, all these songs just bring back a lot of memories about what the 80s meant to me. I think buying these compilation albums and listening to them, beforehand and hearing all the songs again brings back, I think, memories of MTV, music videos when there was music videos to watch. There aren't anymore since they don't make them, but whose fault is that, right? But I regress. Going back to the 80s songs, it was, those are the songs of the decade that you grew up in, are your songs. In the 80s, growing up were my songs, even though I was a teenager in the 90s. Still, the 80s, that's what was on the radio, that's what I listened to most of the time, and that's what got me through daycare and elementary were those songs. So I really did appreciate this past Friday night's Radio Infinity presentation. So the reasons, let's go. Reasons. What is your favorite Chicago song or album and why? So favorite song, actually I can do, I'll answer both questions. Favorite album first is the very first one, where Chicago had a different name. They were Chicago Transit Authority. This was in 1969, and it was their debut album, and they had a lot to prove, and I believe they succeeded in that, in proving their worth to the music community. A lot of great songs on there. Let's see, does anybody really know what time it is? Was on there, and of course, I'm a Man was on there, and um, so many others. And what I'm doing now is just looking up Chicago Transit Authority. I don't want to be wrong about this, but let's see. Their album was great because it brought back so many songs. Like I'm a Man was originally not theirs. It was who was it? Who sang that? It's off the tip of my tongue here. Uh, the, the group. It's called something. The group. Um, it was the Spencer Davis Group was who originally did "I'm a Man," but Chicago incorporated so many more instruments in it. They made it like a larger sounding song with all of the different percussion instruments that they used. I mean, you would have to listen very closely to hear how many they were. I would say about 6 to 7 different types of percussion instruments in there. And before they had Laudier de Oliveira to play these percussion instruments, each band member, along with Danny, they were playing percussion instruments too during the appropriate times. So that made that song even more impressive. And even though Chicago Transit Authority or Chicago One had Does anybody really know what time it is? And Beginnings and Question 67, 68. My favorite song is I'm a Man because it it was a remake, but they did it so elegantly and it sounded so great with all the different percussion in there and adding all the different elements to it. But still, if you listen to the Spencer Davis Group song and Chicago's remake of it, there are a little. Chicago makes a little makes some references back to the original song, which is great, just to pay him homage. So to answer that question, I would say Chicago Transit Authority is my favorite album, and I Am a Man as my favorite song on that album, ironically. What album, either on Chicago Infinity or Radio Infinity, have you found the most enjoyable or fulfilling? Well, thinking about that, I would have to say, let's see, listening. I would say the most fulfilling and playing for everyone would be back on Chicago Infinity, and it was Chicago 9, which was their first greatest hits album. I had two different versions of Chicago 9 in my collection. I had and I have still, but back then I had two different versions to choose from. I chose the quadraphonic version, even though there aren't any more quadraphonic receivers, and of course the four speaker system to play that. Quadraphonic records still play on your standard stereo, um, round, you know, on your standard stereo receiver, and then of course on your standard turntable. And I wanted to play that to hear how it would sound playing off of a standard record player turntable. And it was very interesting to hear that version, that quadraphonic version of Chicago 9 play on a record player, because there were certain sounds that were coming through, and of course it's only playing two channels out of the four, but you still heard what the song would have sounded like, for the most part. But it sounded impressive too, because it sounded like a different version of the song, which I like personally too. I like variations or variants of the song. So that's what I would say was my most enjoyable or fulfilling album played so far. Uh, for the new persons listening, are all you have is just vinyl records? No. To answer that question, no. I have a lot of course, vinyl records, close to 600. Well, actually, I can give you an exact amount here. Looking up on my Excel spreadsheet, I have so vinyl records. I have 621, and like I said, I don't have. I mean, I do have other music media, other than vinyl records. I do have cassette tapes, and my cassette tapes, of course, are not 621, but they are how many here? 92, no, 90, 93 cassette tapes, and I've played some of them on Radio Infinity, and yeah, on Radio Infinity, and I do have some VHS videotapes. That's, I guess, another media type, but they are concerts that were recorded and put onto VHS tapes. So that counts as music as well. Going from Zeppelin to Chicago to Pink Floyd, James Taylor. So I would say, yeah, I do have more more music media other than just vinyl records. And the last question of this He Speaks, or Radio Infinity Speaks, is what songs get played the most on your smartphone? Well, my smartphone library, there are a lot of songs on there from different genres, from 60s, 70s, 80s, some heavy metal, some Spanish, and uh, just a wide variety. So to say what songs get played most, well, I wish I could tell you I pick one band or I pick one song the most. My smartphone is on shuffle all the time, so I'm always listening to something new. But I would say my smartphone shuffle usually ranges from 70s to 80s, and that's what I guess that's what I have more of. But yeah, this has been another Radio Infinity Speaks.